Focus South Asia.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Sigma, for having this panel discussion on South Asia. My name is Erin, and I've been a consultant in gaming for over a decade, working with B2Cs, B2B, and land-based operations. And together today, we have a wonderful panel that joins us today with a lot of experience in the gaming industry. So we have Anutosh Chatterjee from Revenue Street LLP. We have Mr. Vladimir Negine from State.io. And we have Jaydeep Chakravartty, a gaming consultant and an ex-member of the Meghalaya Gaming Council. Right, guys, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for coming here. So I actually own a digital marketing agency, which is purely focused on iGaming traffic, and we work for the Indian geo. So that's what I and my company does.
My name is Vladimir, so I'm the CEO of State.io. We're an aggregation platform. From one side, we're aggregating all the game suppliers from our industry, and from another side, we're supplying it to operators, which are operating in Asia, in Europe, and in LATAM as well.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Jaydeep. So I've been in the industry for more than 20 years now. Started with companies like Ladbrokes, 32Red. Presently, I am working as an independent consultant. My last gig was I was working as a regulator in one of the jurisdictions in India. That's no longer, I'm no longer doing that. But I'm more focused on the Indian market and companies which are basically wants to enter the Indian market, basically assisting with them with all sorts of areas that is relevant. So, Erin.
So, South Asia, right? If you look at, it depends on people's definition of South Asia, right? So for us, it's mainly South Asia is India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and the definition of South Asia changes from person to person. So, and when you look at the region itself, like it's a very, very big market. Like quarter of the world's population live there, all right? So, and that has been a very interesting aspect for operators who want to target this market as well. And the governments in these certain countries have been looking at closely at regulating as well. And we have certain updates in the past few months from these. So my first question, Jaydeep, would you like to start off with the regulatory updates in the market?
Sure. So what I'll do is that is like Erin mentioned, South Asia is not just one country, it's a lot of countries put together. And some of the early adoption of casino industry came from Nepal. So Nepal is where casinos started many years ago. And then obviously then you have Sri Lanka also where you have casinos now, and obviously there are two states in India, which is Goa and Sikkim, where you have land-based casinos. Now, a couple of things that basically we are doing, and I can speak more probably from an Indian point of view, but it's more or less applicable to jurisdictions in Nepal and Sri Lanka, because the market is very dominated by Indian players. So even if these casinos are based in Nepal and Sri Lanka, but the majority of the players are actually from India. So the differences that we have right now is a major thing that came up, which I'm sure Anutosh and Erin will also touch upon, yeah, is on the taxation point of view, which recently, as of last week, it was issued where the government of the day have put a 28% tax on gaming that includes horse racing and online horse racing, casino, and online gaming. Now, the way it's defined as of now, in casino, every time you buy a chip, you have to pay a 28% tax on it. That is how it's defined, but the definition of it may change in coming days, that we have to see. But in terms of regulation, so I was involved in setting up India's first gaming commission. So it was called Meghalaya Gaming Commission. It is from one of the states in northeastern part of India. So we issued casino licenses to 3 operators, and 4 casinos were actually getting built. But due to some political pressure and also elections coming up, the government of the day decided that it was not the right time to go for giving new licenses for casinos. Now, the idea behind that, and it is the same idea that other states, including Nepal and Sri Lanka, also have, the idea to create these casinos is basically to attract tourism. Now, obviously, in addition to the revenues that the casinos bring, it also have a cascading effect where a lot of jobs are created in parallel industries like hotel industry, like restaurants, like tours and travels. So it is not just one thing. There is a lot of other benefits that a casino brings on table. And that was the whole nature why we kind of got involved in setting up new jurisdictions and gaming commission and everything. Unfortunately, that didn't work out at this stage, but in future, I'm sure there will be other states in India which will follow similar suit and will try to open up the market.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of few points. So as Jaydeep mentioned, this is the 28% on the face value, and it also includes lotteries. In India, there is only paper lotteries, no online lotteries. So this 28% is for horse racing, lotteries, and online gaming. Online gaming means any game which has real money involved. So that's a quick clarification I want to make. And I just want to add one more point, specifically with reference to Nepal. I have a couple of updates that as of now, the local residents are not allowed or restricted to enter to the casinos, but there has been some development with the Nepalese government is also now trying to ensure that these people can enter with certain checks and balances. So they have to be a certain age, they have to follow a certain income criteria, and they can be allowed. So that's what I wanted to add.
All right, yeah. So, like the COVID-19 pandemic has affected land-based casino massively worldwide, right? And we have seen an exodus of players moving online space. And that's been the same for the South Asia region as well. And, but when you look at the region itself, like there is an internet penetration of roughly 47%, which is quite high. And the median age is between 25 to 27. So we are looking at a very young demographic here who's having internet right at their fingertips, right? And so my next question here is, okay, what are these young demographic of players doing online? What is the kind of content that they consume? So Vlad, maybe we can start from there?
I'll take it from the aggregation perspective. So first of all, yeah, there is a huge penetration in internet usage, and especially in the mobile. So I wouldn't say, like, according to our data, that there are a lot of players who are, for example, playing from a desktop computer. And taking into account the young generation, so it's a bit different what we see, for example, in Europe. In South Asia, for example, the crash games, which have a huge popularity, because, you know, for a younger generation, it gives them the feel of control of the game. It's a simple game, and we actually see here in this conference how many crash game stands there, like on the ground floor and over here. So there's kind of a completely new trend of the category of the games. So there's one point. The second one is also like the game shows. So according to our data and what we see is that the younger generation, they really, how to say, play a lot, like the game shows where they can have interaction with the dealers, they can have a better payouts, and have a bit of an entertainment as well. So these two kind of areas where at least we see from at least the markets that you have mentioned, if go to Nepal, India, and Bangladesh, yeah, but that's what we see coming from our data.
Let me add some data here, what Erin was saying. Now, don't think I memorized this data by heart. There was a session I did last week in Amsterdam, so the data is fresh in my mind. So, till few years ago, in 2015, India ranked 122 in terms of data consumption. Right now, the per capita data consumption is highest in India in 2023. In 2008, we were one of the most unbankable country in the world. That means a large population of Indians didn't have a banking accounts or access to banking facility. Right now, 48% of entire global world's digital transaction as per volume is done in India. So, this has been like a step-by-step process over the last 10 years, where the government of the day have taken a very lot of inclusive steps to generate the create an atmosphere where digital economy is going to gain a lot. For example, we now have a unified identity card or a unified number that 99% of all adult Indians have a number, which is the unique number. Now, why is that relevant? Now, that's relevant because you can use that number with your biometrics to open a bank account, get a mobile connection. In fact, Betfair, which is one of the more popular online brands in India, they use this method for faster registration for players. Now, none of the other brands, I have not seen them doing or adopting this this technology or this solution, but Betfair have done it, Betway have done it, and they have done it for many years now. So it just goes to say you that, you know, how the technology and how the market is evolving in India. Like Erin is saying, I think what 60% of the population is below the age of 35. So that creates an immense potential. We have around 220 million gamers. That's expected to be 550 by 2025. 550 million gamers. Now, obviously, this includes casual gaming, skill gaming, and other sorts of gaming also. But imagine the potential that is there when you are an online operator or you're targeting these kinds of market. What is the potential that you have?
So in terms of content, few specific points other than what Vlad said. So the Indian typical online real money gamer would consume a lot of sportsbook content driven by cricket. So cricket is actually very popular as a game in India, in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Nepal as well. So that's the biggest consumption of content. Other than that, you have table games and live dealer games. But still, cricket just drives the market crazy. You have multiple leagues happening at multiple points of time. IPL is one of the biggest ones. So the Indian young gaming player really consumes a lot of sportsbook content as well as sport exchanges.
I mean, I guess cricket is something that the entire region agree upon. And the next question here is that we know that there are existing operators who target this market, right? So, and every market comes with its own challenges. What are some of these challenges that is being faced by the current operators in the market? Jaydeep, please.
Yeah, so coming from so I'm going to touch both sides, okay? The land-based side also and the online side also. So on the land-based side, I think the major challenges post-COVID has been getting the players in. Now, one thing, but I'll tell you, so the casinos in Nepal and Sri Lanka are still struggling because there are still, I think the traveling is not that frequent right now. And during COVID times, they struggled a lot. But the casinos in Goa particularly, which is in India, it means I'm being very honest with you. If any of you ever go to Goa and you go to one of these casinos, you will really struggle to find a place to sit because it's so crowded that it means last time I was there were 7 people in front of me, including the 6 who were sitting on the table. So there are 13 people have to move for me to go and get a place in that table. Means it's unthinkable, seriously. Means I was like, there was no, the casino is so popular, but because it's only happening in one part of the country, also it's a limited inventory, so people really don't have a lot of choice for going to casinos. So that's why the ones that are there are extremely crowded, extremely busy. Now coming more on the online side, I think, see, the Indian, it's a unregulated market. Like any other unregulated market, the major challenge that comes is related to payments, moving funds, and how you deal with that. And that is the biggest challenge that most of the operators face, including the challenge of getting the good quality players. But that, I think, challenge exists every other market. Because in every other market, you are competing with other brands and everybody is after the same set of players who are your high value players. So that challenge, I think, is common across market. But like any other unregulated market, payment is again a big issue in India. But there are solutions that are also available. It's not that There are companies like 1xBet, Betway. These guys are doing immense business. Fair Play, Hillary.com. These are big businesses doing millions of euro deposit every day. So I'm not talking in months. Daily their deposits are in excess of millions of pounds or euros. So the market is definitely there and they are able to definitely do the business, but including the challenges. So you have to find a way around those challenges.
Yeah, I'll take it from the online perspective. So obviously, time is money. So the challenges for entering these markets is like how fast you can get there. Because from what we see from the aggregation perspective, is like certain operators, they have the tech. They can go there really fast, but it's not only about to get there, but it's also to scale properly. Because what you said, Anutosh, as well, we can see huge spikes when there is an IPL or another cricket event, and you have to ensure that you can actually accommodate, or your servers can accommodate when players start to, first of all, play through the betting exchange, then they move to online casino, so when there is a cross-sell. So to have the scalability in place is a must. And also, it is worth mentioning, like, the key challenges is to understand what players are actually playing. So you cannot come, like there's a saying, in Rome, do as Romans do. Meaning when you're going to South Asia, you also need to understand, like you cannot bring, let's call it European look-like sportsbook into the market where people have completely different preferences on the product, on the color, and also the games, the content, what players actually play. So I'll just, finish up there.
I'll just add a few quick points for land-based as well as online. Land-based, obviously, one of the biggest challenges, regulatory. It's not very easy for any operator to get a land-based casino license. India operates on a federal structure. Gaming is a state subject. So each of the states needs to decide whether they need to allow a land-based casinos or not. That's one of the challenge. It's still the mindset of the political parties of these states are very restricted in terms of being very lenient to give licenses. Second, it's a big amount of fixed costs to operate and run a license or run a casino. Third, obviously the competition in an online environment is there. Players can easily play online as opposed to going to these casinos. Then you need to have more entertainment added. And from an online point, I would add a very different point which I observe. I have seen that an Indian player's LTV, that's the lifetime value, is a much elongated as compared to the developed and regulated market. So you will extract the value of the player with a much longer timeline as opposed to a much shorter timeline in the regulated market. So you need to have that patience, but once you extract that, you really have the hockey stick approach and you get a huge amount of value from those players. Thank you.
I think one of the point I'll just add, and I think one of the areas that usually doesn't get discussed a lot in events also and even in our discussions also, is actually lottery. Because a lot of our focus has mostly been on casino and sportsbook, and lottery somehow goes hidden. But India is actually one of the biggest lottery market in the world. So the state where I live, we are like 8% of India's population, and the lottery sale in that state yearly is $3 billion US. And they pay almost 900 million US to the government of that particular state as tax. That is just one state. Now, lottery is not legal in all other states. There are 4 states, major 4 states where lottery is legal. But I'm talking of only one state, and this is the kind of revenue that state generates. $3 billion US in sale of lottery tickets, and 900 million is what they pay yearly to government as tax. Now, there is a huge potential when it comes, and these are all paper lottery, by the way. So it gets printed, gets sold on the street. There are millions of people whose livelihood is dependent on sale of lottery tickets. There are, last I checked, there are more than 1 million people who are involved in the sale and trading of lottery tickets. So it's a big industry, it generates a lot of employment, it gets taxed, and there's a lot of tax the government of the day collects from this industry. But again, it is not something that is very widely accepted as in the country, even though there are so many other positive outcomes because of the social stigma associated with lottery and because of other social consciousness. I think a lot of other states are not promoting lottery, but it is also a very, very interesting and a very growth-oriented product.
Just to add, these are raffle type lotteries, not the European style lotteries. So there's a guaranteed jackpot. So it's very different lotteries there. And one more important point, in lotteries, FDI is not allowed. So foreign direct investment in lotteries is restricted. Whereas in online gaming, FDI is still allowed. So I have some visibility that the government is thinking to open up this industry. It's a very patchy as of now, but yeah, FDI is not allowed absolutely in the lottery sector.
All right, guys, I think we are almost reaching the end of our allotted time. So I'm going to close this panel with one last question, right? So a lot of the aspirant operators who wants to enter the region, what are the advices that you would give? Maybe we can start off with Anutosh, yeah.
Well, again, it's land-based and online are two completely different worlds. Online, as Jaydeep mentioned, is unregulated. So if you're entering the market, you need to be very, very clear that you're entering into an unregulated environment. We do not know what the future holds. There are payment issues. The local culture is very different. If you're operating out of India, you need to understand that. And you really need to have the patience to stay committed. But there is enough opportunity, enough juice in the market for you to grow as an online operator, whether you're selling sportsbook or casinos. The market is still very crowded, and there can be an opportunity for you to also run an online lottery grey product in India, because that's again one product that's getting traction. From a land-based, I already advised it's very difficult, very complicated. There are again regulatory environments of FDI, whether a foreign operator is allowed or not. But in my opinion, the biggest challenge would be to understand the market, research the market, and then enter the market, rather than just like a mad dog rush enter and then figure out what to do.
Yeah, so the way I see, like the advice what I would give, obviously to look into the product. I completely agree with you to make a proper research. I mean, what it is actually accepted on the market, what the games, what the sports, and obviously to bring, you know, even from the European side of things, the way the CRM is done as well. So I kind of see from how operators are doing it now, it's more of a volume based, meaning like there's a lot of players coming in, but no properly retention is being made, where, you know, people are not focusing, like acquisition will be always more expensive than retaining a player, and having that big pool of players and how to increase their longevity, the session, like staying with you to build the trust with the brand actually takes time. And obviously it seems like what we are missing is the lottery online, which I'll take as an advice from a gentleman between me. So yeah, I mean, that would be my 2 cents into...
Sure, so I'll try to wrap this up. So first of all, offline land-based casinos, don't even think of entering in those markets. Highly politicized, highly relationship oriented, no point in going there. I think in an online space, the thing is that you need to have multiple payment options. And if you want to be successful in the market, you need to have at least more than 5-6 payment providers for you, because you never know which one will be working on a given day. So that is one suggestion I'll give, that any operator which wants to enter the market, you need to have more and more payment option. And it is not just, it's not like in Europe where you add Trustly and you can run the business for the next 10 years without any trouble, and you can have one payment gateway and everything works perfectly fine. This is like a constant challenge that every month, every 2 months, you have to keep on adding new payment methods. So this is one thing. The other thing is that I think, understanding the audience there. So for example, India is not just one country. South Asia is also not just one country. In India itself is like Europe. You have like French, German, in India we have different people who speak different languages. We have different eating habits. We dress differently. So for example, northern part of India, which is where New Delhi is, which is capital of India, there, if you do promotions where you're giving out a car or an iPhone or a bike, those promotions are very effective. Whereas if you go to southern part of India, where Chennai, Madras, Bangalore, Hyderabad, those cities are there, if you do promotions which is related to gold, those promotions work incredibly well. So you need to understand the audience, what works well. Even across the country, you don't have same style of online players. Some states or some areas, you get better online players than some areas where you get better offline players. So overall, you need to understand your audience before you can make the most out of that market.
Yeah, that brings us to the end of this panel. Thank you again, Sigma. And thank you, gentlemen, for your insights into the market.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.